Other people I know with LLCs pay their children as employees. Is this something I can do? Should I be doing it? And can I still do this if my LLC doesn't earn as much as I think it will? So this is one of the wonderful pieces that gets spread all across social media. You see this beautiful family, they're walking wherever, it's parents, 2, 3, 4, 15 kids, and they're like, I don't see kids, I see tax deductions. And what they're talking about is, hey, pay your kids a salary, and then you can take that and write it off as a business expense. And if you keep it under their standard deduction, then they don't have to pay personal taxes on that money either. So basically tax-free money that stays inside the family without going to the parents or staying in the business. So yes, this is a legal, completely viable option to be able to do. But as with anything on social media, there's always after the but. And this is the part that in a minute video or 30-second video, none of them can fully explain. And they're not really looking to explain it. They're just trying to get their views and their impressions on their video. So the way that it works is, yes, you absolutely can, with some guardrails in place. So the first thing is, I always tell people that ask me this, how old do these kids have to be? Typically, I say they need to be at least 8 to 10 because they've got to do something substantial for your business. So a 5-year-old is probably not doing much in your business, but an 8 or 10-year-old could be filing papers. They could be doing graphic design, things like that. So if they're 8 to 10, that's probably kind of the low end of the range. And then obviously up till 18 and then beyond 18 isn't a problem. Step number 2 is you've got to track their time. So when they actually are working on the business, you need to track how many hours they worked, because you're then going to set an hourly rate for the work that they're doing and issue them a paycheck, whether that's every 2 weeks, every month, depending on what your state's labor laws are on how often you have to do that. So track their time, set an hourly rate, give them a paycheck at the end of the year. You're going to give them a W-2. If they made enough, they have to file taxes. If they didn't make enough to have to file taxes, they don't have to file taxes. So that piece isn't as important, but it's got to be substantial work, and you have to pay them at a rate that is worthy of the work they're doing. So you can't be like, oh, well, they're filing papers in the filing cabinet, I'm going to pay them $200 an hour because then they don't have to work as many hours and I can pay them a whole bunch of money. If they're filing papers in a filing cabinet, how much would you pay an adult to do that same type of work? That's kind of your standard for how much you're going to pay them. This year, standard deduction is about $13,000. So as long as you pay them less than that, then they're not going to have to pay taxes, at least the federal level. They might have state taxes that are due, but all these things are perfectly reasonable. So, again, the biggest points are track their time, set a rate that's standard for what the work is that they're doing, issue them a paycheck, and they could be a direct deposit, so it doesn't have to be an actual written check. Issue them a W-2 at the end of the year, and do all of your payroll tax filings throughout the year. So if you're meeting all of those requirements, then theoretically there's no limit to how much you can pay them. And if they go over that 13-ish thousand, then they'll pay a little bit of taxes, but it'll definitely be a lower rate than you as the parent/business owner would pay. As far as how much the business is making, that doesn't really have an impact, but you want to have the business making enough money that there's actual money to be able to pay them. So you can't be like, oh, well, my business only made $5,000 for the year, but I paid my kid $12,000. IRS is going to be like, where'd the rest of that money come from? So, those are kind of the biggest pieces. And then, from there, obviously employment taxes and things like that. So there is some additional cost of paying your kids. You got to pay in Social Security, Medicare, depending on what type of entity you are. So it's, factoring that piece in as well. But again, if they're at least 8 to 10, and again, if they're older, if they're teenagers, just can have a job just about anywhere. But with child labor laws, if they're working for their parents' business, they can be younger than that. So that's where like the 8 to 10 to 12-year-olds can work for those businesses where they can't just work at McDonald's or a grocery store or something like that. The other nice part about paying your kids is if you are paying them, and obviously they've got a W-2 at this point, now they have earned income, and you can then set up either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. with that level of income, I always say open the Roth IRA, because you're not paying any taxes anyways. So you're not going to get a tax benefit from doing a traditional IRA. So you open that Roth IRA, not paying any taxes when it goes in because the income's so low. As long as the money sits there for 5 years and they're 59 and a half, all that money comes out tax free. And if you do it, it literally is as little as like 4 years between the time that they're 10 and 18. That $24,000, $25,000, $30,000 can easily grow to $1 million by the time that they're, can use it. So it's a great planning tool for that, where it's like, oh, I put aside 25 grand when they were a teenager. They theoretically don't have to save anything else for retirement just because it's going to sit there for 40 years. And as long as the market doesn't tank too badly, too many times in there, the wonderful power of compound interest is going to grow that money into a huge amount. So it's an additional side benefit of being able to pay your kids when they're younger, is that even if you're paying $1,000 to them because they worked 50 hours, they worked 1 hour a week for $20 an hour, well, that $1,000 can go into a Roth IRA, and every little bit, of that kind of thing helps.